So, with all your permission, I am starting now. So, the word the wasteland, the land which is of no use. In Hindi, we can say Banjar Bhumi. So, from this word, what we can observe is Elliot from the agricultural background or archaeologist department who is analyzing the land, but definitely he is not from these two departments. So, why wasteland? Why not others? Because before giving this title the wasteland, he's thinking about another title. The title was previously was the police. He do the police in different voices, but due to interruption of Ezra Pound, he changed the title. Next slide please, ma'am. So here's the writer T.S. Eliot. He is a modern English poet, playwright, literary and social critic. Playwright means who write plays for the theaters like dramas. So the T.S. Eliot, the full form is Thomas Stern Eliot. He is a great modern English poet, and he is the seventh and youngest child of W. Z. Eliot and Charlotte Champ Stearns. But uh, seventh child is dead at the birth. So we can say there are only six childs, from which he is the one of the youngest. He trained himself as a poet from the age of 14. He is influenced by the Edward Fizerlet, who wrote the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. First, he published his poem, A Fable for Fishers, written as a school exercise, and was published later in the Smith Academy record of February in 1905. Although during his years of childhood, he is a great knowledge of the poems, and he had great interest in the poem. So he started at the age of 14 to write some poems for the schools. After that, he moved to Harvard University, where he studies the philosophy and completed his BA MA in English literature. To go Harvard University was a family trend because they all go to Harvard to attain their education, their higher education. Beside this, he also studies about French, Sanskrit, Pali, Indian philosophy, Indian classical text, Bhagavad Gita, and also studied about Buddhism. He has great influence of Buddhism, and also in Westland we will see some context from the Bodh religion. After this, he spent the earlier years of World War, not earlier, all the full years of World War One in England. During these years, he also married to Vivian Hegwood in June 1915. But the marriage was not considerable a good marriage because it doesn't last for many years. And finally, after the death of Vivian Haig, he also married to his assistant Blair Fletcher in 1957. During uh, his marriage, after his marriage, he worked as a schoolmaster, but soon after he started work as a bank clerk at Lloyds Bank in London. Primarily, he worked as a school teacher, but due to his poetic abilities, he also gave up the Lloyds Bank for a new found publishing house, Faber and Faber. Later, he became director of Faber and Faber. He was also a editor of literary journal Criterion. Next slide, please, ma'am. Eliot died in 1965 due to lungs problem. There is a disease we started during the cold months in 1962, around in 1962, and which lasted at least for 3 years, and he died. But like other poets, he not directly worried. buried in the Westminster Abbey, but his body was cremated first, and his ashes buried at the church of East Coker, where it is written as "In my beginning is my end, and in my end is my beginning." These are the lines from his poem for quartets. Later on, as we already heard about Westminster Abbey, where all the poets, heroes, villains, etc., buried like Geoffrey Chaucer, Edward Spencer, if I am right. So later on, in 4th of June in 1967, a memorial stone in the form of slab placed in Abbey in the name of Eliot, where this slab you can see the in right side in black, where it is written, the communication of the dead is tongued with the fire beyond the language of the living. So it is placed by his second wife at Westminster Abbey in the poetic corner, in the poet's corner. Next slide, please, ma'am. So the question arises, why wasteland? So to know the answer of this, we have to go back in the time. Let's have a wish back. Imagine yourself at a period where the fighter planes are thundering above you and heavy bombardment is carrying out in the world. Yes, definitely, I am talking about the World War One. It is the time to which Eliot belongs. He is very influenced by the World War destruction. So he wants to write something about the World War, about the peoples during that time. So he writes the wasteland. But it is not only a single reason, although there is a second reason about his marriage. His marriage is also not going well, as his wife undergone mental sickness, which also caused some mentally disorder to Eliot himself. And it is the time when he was writing the Wasteland. As he wanted to write something for his journal Criterion, the Wasteland was one of them. He writes the Wasteland for his magazine. The name is Criterion, and he published the Wasteland in this magazine in 1922. In the Wasteland, we can see at the last of this poem, in where the thunder set, in the fifth section of this poem, there is line: "These fragments I have shot against my ruins." So these lines actually he want to answer us, all the nation, all the world. He want to answer that why I have written this poem, because he was personally dismayed by the emotions, spiritual stability around the world, and he want to write something. Peoples are selfish, and they are spiritually gone. They are like zombies. So he want to write something. He asking the entire world that what they want in this situation. Here I have written this in pieces for you. Next slide, please, name. So let's talk about the Wasteland. As we know, the Wasteland is published in 1922 and is a great example of modernist poetry. The Wasteland has 434 lines and divided into five sections. But being divided into five sections, Eliot's present an unified pattern and cohesive work of poetic art. The poem is dedicated to Ezra Pound. The Ezra Pound was an American poet and also mentor to Eliot. Actually, they are friends too because Eliot's they met in 1914. It was not a simple visit. Actually, it was a paid visit. During the time, Ezra Pound was very famous poet, and Eliot just wanted to meet him, so he paid some dollars to his visit. But after meeting Eliot, Ezra Pound uh, get very impressed by him, and he saw the poetic abilities in the Eliot and started work with them, with him. Sorry. Although I want to personally thank the Ezra Pond because he also added the Westland. It was not earlier 434 lines. It was a huge poem, but Ezra Pound done some addition to the work. He added some long stanzas to 2 to 3 lines, and finally it comes to 434 lines. So thankfully, in the view of IGNOU examination, as it is 434 lines only. Next slide, ma'am. The Wasteland is a modern epic, as we know. The Wasteland is an important poem of 20th century and the central work of modern poetry because it has unified themes, coherent structures. The poems incorporate many unrelated events, little known references of history, legends, mythologies, and other disciplines. Although Eliot not only add the phrases from the other disciplines but also use the different languages like Sanskrit, Latin, and some other languages from and events from Greek mythologies. This poem published after 3 years of World War and totally is about spiritual moral and physical destruction caused by First World War. Eliot was influenced by Dante, John Webster, John Donne, and French symbolists like Jules Lefebvre, and also Ezra Pound, one of his mentors. The Wasteland presents the moral decay of the post-World War I because all the world was totally became selfish, where there is no moral values left, and decay of the world starts from the World War I. Next slide, please. Theme, style, and devices used in the Wasteland. I'm not I'm not going so deep in the themes and style devices because we are covering these devices since many sessions. So just talking about the themes. In this poem, we will see the themes like religion, isolation, sexuality, death, rebirth, water, and because it's a modern poem, and so style is also modern. Literary devices are used in the poem so far are metaphor, simile, irony, consonance, alliteration, assonance, onomatopoeia. If you want me to cover this, I will cover in the next slides. And the main features of the poem is it is full of allusions. There is no rhyme scheme is there. It is totally written in blank verse and free verse. Use of enjambment is we can see throughout the poem. There is a lot of words in repetition, personification, imagery. We can see in the upcoming slides. So the poem starts with the epigraph. The epigraph of the poem is in Greek and Latin languages. You can see in the black background ones. It is taken from the Arbiter's Roman author. That is, if I remember it is a Satiricon. Is written. These lines are written in another poems, and the lines described about bowman that is civil. The myth of civil is used here, in which the Greek god Apollo granted the immortality to Cybele on her wish, but she forgot to ask for eternal youth. Now she regretted about her wish, and because she is getting older and older day by day. Now when some boys are passing by her, they ask her, "What do you want now?" because you actually asked for immortality and Greek god Apollo has granted this. Now why are you unhappy now? But then she replies that she wants to die. So Eliot just mentioned this epigraph to set a tone what is upcoming in the poem, in the all the five sections of the poem. It is definitely the decayed condition of the civilization and a culture of living dead. Next slide, please. As I already said, the poem is divided into five parts. The first part is the burial of the dead, next, a game of chess, third, the fire sermon, fourth, the dead by water, and fifth, the what the thunder said. So let's start with the first section, the burial of the dead. The first section, burial of the dead. The burial of the dead stands for spiritual depravity and death of the wastelanders, or we can say that stands for the living dead. The title is taken from the church where they use a common prayer about the burial. So the title is taken by Eliot from the church itself. Eliot mentioned the April month as the cruelest month here, where in wasteland we are living without morality and spirituality, and they are just became zombies because they have bodies but they have no souls. Here you can see in the pic, here is example of zombies. There are many Hollywood movies where we can see zombies. They act like without brain. They have. Is there any breakout in the voice? Hello, Jyoti ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear you very clearly. Very clearly. You can
Okay,
continue. You can continue.
okay. So this stanza is taken from the Burial of the Dead, and the poem starts with April is the cruelest month, breeding relax out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Eliot mentioned the April month as cruelest month. Here he uses the heavy, we can see the heavy sense of irony here because generally April is not a cruelest month, it is the sweetest month for the Christians. Oh, yes, it may be cruel for us because it comes with Corona and lockdown, but not for them. During that time, the April is one of the sweetest month. But as we can see in the Canterbury Tales, where Chaucer used April as the sweetest month, but Eliot has different point of view and mentioned April as cruelest month. So, what is the wrong with April? Here in Westland, Eliot startings these lines from the point of view of Westlanders, where people don't like the April. In Westland, all the roots are dull, land is dead. April is cruel as it breeds lilacs. Lilacs is a type of flower which is going to coming out from the dead land. But all the peoples are sad there because of World War One. They don't want to see some beautiful things there. Dead land here denotes the wasteland, which is which is dead in winter. In winter, what we do, just we do the things we are doing right now. We are in our on our bed and don't want to go outside because there is cold and everything. Actually we became lazy during the winter, but in April month, where we have to go outside and do some works. So the idea of April is taken from the Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, and he mentioned the relax out of the deadlands, mixing memory and desire. So memory and desire mixing in April. It is not mixing in April only, but memory is denoting the past time. Past time, the time before the World War One, when the time is good. All the peoples are good at their own. They have no problems. But after the World War, now April is coming, and they have past good memories, and now they have past memories and their desires for the futures. They are both mixing up in this month. Stirring dull roots and spring rain. They don't want to remember the past time. Stirring dull roots means stimulate and excite. Actually, the spring rain, when the rain comes, it only stirs the dull roots. There is nothing happening to them. The rain is only stimulating or exciting the dull roots. Here we can also see the use of enjambment in the first line, second, third, fourth, because as we know, enjambment use of enjambment in there is no there is no pause in between the lines, and the sense or phrase of meaning of the phrase is jumping from one line to another line without any pause. So next line is the winter cactus barm, covering earth in forgettable snow, feeding a little life with dry tubers, summer spiders coming over the Starnberg Sea with a shower of rain we stopped in the colonnade. The meaning winter cactus barn for Westlander, actually the winter is a best month for them because they don't have to do anything. But in April they don't want to do anything, and April is not a best month for them. According to speaker here, winter is better than spring because it provides a comfort. It helps them to be numb, emotionless. For Westlanders, it is better to be forgetful and remain covered in the numbness. Dried tubers, if the dried tubers are the roots, like roots of potatoes. They are in round shapes that are known dried tubers. They are dead roots. Winter just only feed them a little bit of joy. So actually, winter is also not doing so much things, but as the rain comes and it stirs the roots, but the plants are not coming out from the roots. It only stimulate, excite the roots. Next, there is a scene of change. The second part is about the marriage in the mountain. Now, in the startings, Elliot is just talking about the landscape scenes. Let's skim. It's about the environment conditions, April and seasons. But suddenly there is a change in the poem, and he started talking about a woman, Mary, which is living in between the who is living in between the mountains, and here we will see her dramatic monologue started. Actually, ma'am, go in previous slide, please. At last, we will see the summer spiders coming over the Starnberg Sea with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade. So here we can see the change in the scene. Summer spiders is coming. So the season is changed after the winter, and spring is now summer is going on. So here is the change of scene, and the poet is talking about Starnberg Sea. Actually, it is a lake. It is a landscape scene here. So he is talking about the Mary, a woman. Her memories are coming out from here. Now she is going to Starnberg Sea with the shower of rain. When the rain comes there, she is We come here, narrator here, and now the Mary is telling to us that we stopped in the colonnade. Colonnade are the columns, are pillar-like structures. So she went through the structures. Now, actually, it is not so easy to understand this poem because there is a change of scenes, line to line change. We may know, we may don't know what is going here and what is coming to us. So, after the seasons, there is just there. Alice started a story of Mary. She is going somewhere, and suddenly she stopped in the colonnade. Next slide, ma'am. Here we can see some landscape scene. The Elliot's game changed the scene and jump to the some landscape scene. It is not Mary now talking anymore. The stony, rubbish, desert places, heap of broken images, fear and handful dust, rocks, no water. Elliot again start the scene of landscape, and he's totally talking about again the best land. But his wasteland is there. There are the desert places are there, and no water is there. Only rocks are there. He also used a word heap of broken images. Heap is a lot, some, or in Hindi we can say dher. The broken images, speaker is actually asking what will grow from the spirits. Is there is actually there is nothing that can bring the life in the dead lands. There is no comfort everywhere on this land until you may under the influence of religion. Landscapes is after actually in every line there is a change of scene. First scene is about season. Second scene about a woman Mary who is talking about his memories that she was going from one place to another place and they stopped at colonnade. And after that there is a scene change about the landscapes like desert where there are only rocks and a heap of broken images. Broken images means memories. For Westlander, there are only the memories which are living inside their minds from the past, and they are very fearful about what is coming to them, what will be the future. So it is compared to a fear in the handful of dust, because finally they are going to be became dust. When we died, we finally became dust. So Eliot compare our body to the dust. I'm not giving the all the 434 lines line by line explanation, but I am just describing the scene, but is going in the wasteland. Ma'am, please change the slide. The third part belongs to Hyacinth girl. It is some kind of flower which is given to a girl in the childhood. So they all the peoples called this girl as Hyacinth girl. Uh, Sorry for interruption. Rating, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Ankush.
Ma'am, actually, you have shown the slide that I have sent to you,
Yeah.
the last one.
Yes, the one which you gave me just recently.
1 minute, ma'am.
Okay. Or have I shown the wrong slide?
It's looking like that. Actually, I have made some changes and I have sent you the new one. Just wait, ma'am.
Just uploaded it. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
This is the one?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please
Okay.
go to full screen mode.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
Okay.
Ma'am, please mute the mic.
Yeah.
So the landscape scene. Now I have already mentioned the poem to the right side. So I am starting from there, where the roots that clutch the but branches grow out of this stony rubbish. Stony rubbish is representing the wasteland, the root that clutch. Because the roots can't hold this land, nothing can grow from it. In the word wasteland, actually Eliot want to represent the thoughts process of the peoples of the modern world, but is going through their head. Out of the stony rubbish, Son of Man. Son of Man is the representation to the Jesus Christ. You can't say or guess, for you only a heap of broken images. Eliot just asking the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, that you can't guess what is going on here. There are only the heap of broken images. There are only the memories inside us, where the sun beats and the dead receive no shelter. Here in that land, the sun beats strongly with its temperature, and there are no trees. They can't give us shelter. There is no cricket at all. We can't hear any cricket out of the land because there is no crickets at all. Everywhere is totally desert place. There is no sound of water. Here water represents the religion because the peoples are totally gone from the religion, and they become selfish. Peoples are dying of spiritual thirst. No water means there is spiritual thirst among the people. There is shadow under the red rock. Red rock representing the religion. There is shadow under the red rock. Come under the shadow of this rock, this red rock. Because the people become the spiritually dying. They are, and there is no religion inside them. So Eliot's giving a message to all of the wastelanders that come in, come to the shadow of the religion. There is the only way to overcome from this situation. And okay, red rock is a religion, and water, for water is actually the sound of no sound of water shows that they are thirsty. They are thirsty for spirituality, and because they are no more spiritual at all, because they are going apart from their religions, and there is no connection to their god. They are just living in their own. And I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Eliot again changing the scene here. He is talking about shadow, but this time he is talking about the shadow in the morning and evening. These are two shadows and representing the past and future. He wants us to remember what is happened in your past and what you are desiring in the future. So I will show you the fear of handful dust. There is nothing which is going with us to the future, but only the one thing is that is death, because that death is always accompany us from past to the future. Next slide, please. Uh, Here again is a change of scene, where is I already mentioned the hyacinth girl. Hyacinth is some kind of flower. You can see in the first image where girl is holding a flower, that are the hyacinth flower. So here Eliot mentioned some memories of a girl who her romantic time. The girl was given some flowers by his lover, but now his lover is gone. He is totally empty without his lover. She is missing her. She is missing him. So From this, Eliot want to mention that there is no relationship, no certain relationship is going on in the wasteland. They are just living in their own. There is no love at all. And finally, the scene is the fourth part is Madame Sosostris, the fortune teller. Uh, Madame Sosostris is a fortune teller, and she is considered is the wisest woman of the Europe. She has a wicked pack of cards. She can tell the fortune to their customers, and so here the scene again changed, and Elliot just mentioning that there is a woman who is carrying the pack of cards and allowing her customers to see what will be happen in the future. So the first card in the wasteland is come up with Phoenician sailor. Phoenicians are actually the group of peoples from the 1000 year before the birth of Christ. Phoenicians are well known for their sailing in the sea. They are so skilled persons, and but the first card the madam shows in which the Phoenicians is drowned in the sea. So how can he can drown in the sea because they are the skilled person? But she want to show that the future is coming to us is not so good. It is totally actually these lines are taken from the Shakespeare Tempest, in which the drowned sailor's eyes are shown as a pearls. The sailor is drawn to the sea and his eyes turn to pearls, which are more valuable. The drowning in the sea is also indicating that the rebirth, because his eyes turning as pearls and they are actually more important and more costly. So, so he wants Eliot wants us to clear that if there is the only way that we can go wide, go through the death, and our spirit will arise again. There is actually total six card I have shown in the pics. The next card with the Mad Society shows the Lady of Veldona. It is a Italian word which means beautiful, beautiful things, beautiful painting. And Belladonna here shown as a lady of the rocks and lady of situations. Next card is given as a man with three steps, as mentioned here. Next card, a wheel of fortune. Wheel of fortune is a wheel of life and death because the wheel is continue rotating. In Hindi, we can say the Kal Chakkar because time is going so and so on to the infinite times. There is nothing a stoppage in the wheel. Next is a one-eyed merchant. I will describe this card later in the upcoming slides. And last one is the hanged man. Hanged man here described about the Jesus Christ because there is no particular translation of the poem. All the writers who those who read this poem they taken their words as their own. The Madden Society shows the card hanged man is taken as the hanged man as a son of the God Jesus Christ. Next slide, please, ma'am. The last part of the Real of Dead is deal with the unreal city. There is a question in the examination which also come from this part, and I also mentioned this question in the last slides, so I will discuss it later. The unreal city here is the London. The Eliot mentioned the London as an unreal city. There is nothing is real because it is a place without real values. People, peoples on the bridge, on the London Bridge, are walking like zombies, and they are seems very unhappy with their state of mind, walking toward the church and relating their thoughts with religions and death. In this part, we can see the peoples are shown are going from the bridge to the church. So Eliot just mentioned the hope that the only way to come out is only the church. Yeah, we can say it's only the religion. With the help of religion, we can came out from the wasteland. In the unreal city, peoples are living without souls. People are physically lives, but they are spiritually dead. They are only the group of zombies, and London becomes a populated place of the ghosts. The ghosts are representing they are not living spiritually because they are spiritually dead. They have body, but they have no soul. Next slide, please, ma'am. Next part of the poem is the game of chess. The game of chess starts with the gyrograph of bowman. The opening lines of game of chess described about a bowman sitting inside a royal room, and all the opening lines, around 10 lines, 10 to 20 lines, are showing the luxurious lifestyle of that woman. Basically, Eliot wants to criticize the modern lifestyle of the people of that time because they have the money and royalty, but after that they are still upset because they are living without any aim, without any spiritual values. There is no moral values left among them. The next scene in the game of chess is related to the myth of Philomela. Actually, the myth of Philomela is taken from the Roman poets Ovid's Metamorphoses, where the Philomela was raped by his sister's husband, who was a king Tereus. Tereus cut down her tongue so that she can't tell anyone that she is being raped by a king, by her sister's husband. But somehow she managed to tell the truth to her sister. On knowing the truth, her sister slays down the king's son, we can say her son, into pieces and feed the son to at dinner to the king. When king know about these things, she ran out toward the Philomela, and Philomela changed to the nightingale with the help of the gods. After this, we see again a shift in the scene. The Eliot again changed the scene, and dialogue and monologue between two persons without any identity start to say, you know nothing, do you see nothing, do you remember nothing, are you alive or not, is there nothing in your head. These are lines also mentioned in the poem, continuously changing the scene. After this, next scene is this scene. Actually, these lines are showing the faded relationship because the meaningless questions are a female is asking to her husband that you know nothing. Do you see some nothing? Do you remember nothing? Actually, these are the questions a female is asking a male lover. So these questions are representing that their relationship is faded now, and there is no love in between them. The last scene, that is in coffee shop, is taken from the lower background family, lower class family. The two women are sitting in the bar and talking about another woman. Her name is Lil. The women are talking about Lil and her husband Albert. Albert is a military man. He is coming back uh, from from his unit after detaching from the war, Actually, Albert has fought many war in the previous time. Now he is going back to the home. So the two women are talking about Lil that she should get ready for her husband as her husband is coming back after a long time. So she should not wait for that. If she will not prepare herself for her husband, then her husband will choose some another woman for an romantic time. But when this conversation is going on through, some interruption voice is coming out there. Hurry up, please, it's time. Hurry up, please, it's time. This voice is from bartender. The bartender is interrupting them again and again that it's time. The bar is about to close, so you have to go. So with this scene, the game of chess, the part is over. The next slide, please. The fire sermon. Next slide, please. The fire sermon, actually, this section Eliot's taken from the view of Buddhism. The primary element is fire here, and the sermon is preached by Buddha. So Eliot mentioned that sermon here. Eliot just said that the Buddha sermon is comparable to Jesus' sermon on the mount in its meaning and significance. The Buddha considered the source of all suffering is desire. According to Buddha, if there is desire in us, then we will definitely suffer. So it is the only way to come out to finish our desire, to burn our desire so that we will live a happy life. It is kind of fire that pulsates through all the different capacities of man, and the way of neutralize those is to reach a higher state of desireless. Next slide, please, ma'am. The fire sermon is will be covered by Reti ma'am, but I just covering the little bit things. The scene starts in the fire sermon is autumn season, where the you can see in pic. It's the Thames River of England. You also see this river in many movies. This bridge is London Bridge, and you have seen this so many times. So the Eliot mentioned the lines with the Thames River that the bank the bank of the river is broken now. The lovers have no shades of trees because there is no tree that is now providing any love, any shades to a lover. Because in previous time there are some lovers who are sitting beside this river, but now they are gone. There is no enjoyment of songs. Songs are representing Edmund Spenser's song, which are of no use right now at the place. Names are departed. Names are the prostitutes, sex workers who were living beside the London Bridge are gone now. And the next scene is the unreal city again, where the merchant, Mr. Ignites, and his story is there. The merchant is the same that is shown in the card, one-eyed merchant. But Mr. Ignites and the speaker are going to a hotel that represents the homosexuality at that time. The homosexuality in the Cannon Street and Metropole. Cannon Street and Metropole both are the hotels at the London, which they are famous for the homosexuality. So Eliot also criticized the homosexuality at that time. And the next scene is of Tiresias. Tiresias is a blind prophet like Sibyl. He can see the future. Actually, it is getting so much time, so I'm not explaining the Tiresias, how Tiresias became blind. But some instance, Tiresias was a blind prophet, and he is cursed by Greek god Hera. Actually, once he saw two snakes in during the intercourse and separate them. So goddess Hera is goddess Hera cursed the Tiresias that you have apart those two snakes from an intercourse. Now you have to live the life of woman for 7 years. So Tiresias have the both qualities of man and woman. But after some times, there is a conversation is going on between the goddess Hera and her husband Zeus. Both are Greek gods. So the conversation is on the subject of that who will enjoy who will enjoy in the sexual intercourse, man or woman. But they have no answer. So they called upon Tiresias to give answer. Tiresias is living with the both lives of man and woman, so he is a better person to give answer. Tiresias said that women are more enjoyable in the sexual intercourse, but Hera does not want to hear that. So he cursed again Tiresias to be blind forever. But Zeus was not of such type of god. He don't want to Tiresias be blind, so he gave him a power to see the future. So here is the scene of Tiresias, and Tiresias is telling about a typist girl. Typist girl. The girl is coming back home from her office. Now she is in home and preparing her meal, but suddenly there is a person that is a clerk or her boyfriend go to her home, and he started some sexual harassment to the typist girl, although she is her girlfriend, or we can say both are lovers. But the love is going on, that in this scene is without feelings. Typist girl doesn't want any sexual relationship with this guy, but he's continue assaulting the typist girl and have an intercourse with her. But the matter of fact, she does not want anything from his lover. So in this scene, we can see the love is going on, but love is without feeling. There is no feeling there in the wastelanders. The peoples are taking the sexual relationship as a matter of just work. They don't want any love. They just taking it like a job that they have to do it. Next slide, please, ma'am. So next part is the death by water. It is the shortest part in the wasteland. There is only 10 lines in it. And again, we will see the Phoenician, the sailor. Here, the Phoenician, the sailor again described here. The Philebus, the Phoenician, is described here. The current undersea picked his bones. Here we can see the how Phoenician sailor is died, how he drowned in the sea, because they are very skilled person, and I don't think they can drown easily. So Eliot mentioned here the current under the sea picked his bones in whispers. When he trapped in the sea, the current of the sea picked his bone in whispers, and with the uh, with the waves his body rise and fell, and during when his body is rising and falling down, there is a scene is going in his mind, that all the work what he do from younger age to the older age is going in front of his eyes. In many times we have heard about that when people die, every work, every karma of his life is gone through his eyes at the last stages. So some same things are going on here. His body is trapping in the sea, and waves taking his body from rising from and rising. Uh, his body is rising and falling down with the waves, and finally entering the whirlpool. Whirlpool is a place where water is rotating. We can uh, it is some kind of in Hindi we can say chakravat, where body is rotating in the water. So Eliot want to make us clear that you will finally die, no matter what you are. In final lines in the Death of Water, he said, "Gentle Urju, O you turn the wheel and look to windward, consider Phoebus, who was once handsome and tall as you." Now he is asking the peoples of all the religion, no matter what you are gentle or Jew, you have to die in the upcoming time. Who turn the wheel and look to windward. Now, actually, the Eliot is talking to people who are turning the wheel, who are living presently, and they are not died till, but they are going up and down with the time and looking forward. So, the speaker is calling to every person of the religion that it doesn't matter who are you, no matter to which religion you are belonging. Everyone has to die like Phoenician, because Phoenician was also an handsome and tall as you. There is no matter that how fit you are, how healthy you are, how tall you are, how handsome you are. Nothing matter in case of death. All have to die. Next slide, please. The last part of the poem is what the thunder said. In this part we will see the thunder had said only three words: da da da, da, and the da da da. The meaning of da 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 is written as datta, the mita. Next slide, please. So in the but the thunder said, the part starts with the events of crucifixion of the Jesus Christ. It revolves around the Christ and Hindu Upanishad. In this part, the part starts with the events crucifixion of Jesus Christ and rebirth of Jesus. The death of Jesus Christ, mentioned as he who was living is now dead. Here, the death of Jesus Christ is mentioned, and it describes the spirituality is dead now among us, because with the death of Jesus, the spirituality is dead now among us, and we are suffering still now. The first scene is describing about totally about Jesus Christ. Next scene, two disciples of Jesus Christ are going to Emmaus. Emmaus is a place where the two disciples of Christ saw the Jesus Christ after the rebirth. If you go through some events in the Bible, in Bible Jesus Christ once dead, and after 2 3 days he again he again rose and seen by two of his disciples. But in this poem, the two disciples are going to Emmaus. Then they saw a hooded person beside them. The one of disciple asked another, "Who is going beside you? Because we are only two, but the third one is also going with us." Then the second disciple said, "There is no one with us, but the shadow are but the shadows are three there. The person are going only two." So Eliot want to mention that God is always with us, no matter that we have faith in God or not, but God is always with us throughout our life. Next scene is, ma'am, please, previous slide, please. Next scene is again landscape scene, where is no water, no religious values are mentioned. Ma'am, please, previous slide. Yes. In the pic, you can see there is Fisher King I have mentioned. The Fisher King is described here as a king of the wasteland. But in the final scene, the king is sitting and fishing in the sea. Behind the king, there is all the land which is totally waste. So the Fisher King is a illusion which is taken from Ritual to Romance by Jesse Wester. where the king's worries about his land and which needs to be set under the heel. King wants his land should grow more grains, but there is no water in the land, so his land is totally waste of now. But in the final lines, there is a thunder which started, and rain is coming to the wasteland. And with thunder, there is three words, da da da. Actually, it is also mythology in the Hinduism that once in Hindus there is a god Brahma. Most of us will know may know about the Brahma, the creator. So once demons, gods, and humans went to the Brahma and asked, "What is the best way for living?" Then Brahma said three words, da da da. So the gods taken the bird uh, as the Dhameta, and next humans taken as Datta, and demons taken as the Advam. All the three words has the meaning that be self-controlled and give and be compassionate. If we follow these three rules, that control yourself, give the things to another, only not things, but be a giver and be compassionate, be sympathy to another. If we follow these three rules, then we will live a happy life. Finally, the game, finally, this part ended with the Shanti, 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 that is indicating the peace. Next slide, please. So, coming to over the RTCs, but we have to write in the RTC. If any RTC come from the Westland, first mention the title and poet's name. Next, then mention a brief description about the Westland, meaning of the lines, what poets want to say in the lines, literary poetic devices like metaphor, irony, illusion, etc., and brief note about Eliot's life. Next slide, please. So this stanza came in the exam in June 14 and 16. So I will discuss it. Next slide, please. So how to write RTC answer? Firstly, we will write that these lines are taken from the Burial of Dead and written by the T.S. Eliot, published in like this. I have already mentioned. Please go through it. Next slide, please. In second paragraph, I have mentioned how these lines are denoting, but they are mentioning here. That is the phrase "Unreal City" is reference to the Charles Baudelaire, 19th century French poet whose collection and what poets wants to convey in these lines the real city London, which is I already discussed, and about London Bridge, peoples are like zombies, etc. And after that, the what poetic devices are used here, that imagery is used in the sections. The crowd flowed over the London Bridge is create a imagery to us, giving a sense how many people are crossing over the bridge and they are going toward the church. In the paragraph I have mentioned in the red color, that is the Eliot alludes to the Dante's Inferno here. Lastly, we can put a short note about Eliot's life and works, mentioning the opening slides, which I have mentioned in the opening slides of the presentation. Next slide, please.